Hey guys, thank you so much for stopping by the garden today. We're going to go over a little tour of my indoor collection here, which they sit in my eastern facing exposure window and they get about 5 to 6 hours of sun a day. We're just going to go through my plants and go over how I grow them and just the care on them, different kinds. I have so many varieties that I grow in here. These get about 2 to 3 hours of direct sun a day, but they're away from the window, so these are low light plants and they can tolerate this light. Most of the day, bright indirect light, but they do get a few hours in the morning sun. It seems like my plants grow really well in this eastern facing exposure window here in Florida because the sun is so intense. So any more sun than that for these indoor plants that I have that are sensitive to the heat, they would kind of wilt. That little shamrock over on the left here, this little thing wilts and starts closing up when it gets too hot. So that's why I put it on this table and it's doing really well in those only that few hours of sun a day. Same thing for these bamboos. If they received any more sun than that, they'd probably end up burning and start turning really white, and they'd get bleached. So that's why I only give them a couple of hours. Now these by the window, they all get 5 to 6 hours of sun a day, except the ones off to the side. So the ones on the side here on the left, this is my marginalis rugba. Crassula marginalis rugba is the full name, and it's a trailing succulent. And just make sure you rotate all your pots, guys. So when you grow indoor plants, you definitely want to pay attention to the way it's growing. So you can see all the foliage is spreading towards where the sunlight was because it was facing this way, and this side is not filled out. So rotating your plants is really important so you can definitely have even foliage all around. And this one just drops foliage like crazy. It propagates like crazy, and I grew this from a little cutting. So it was like a little cutting that I found on the floor. It was a little top piece, and this is what I got in a year. From growing up here in this window. It just loves that indirect but bright light all day long, along with this little philodendron. So this doesn't get any direct sun. My Crassula marginalis rugba we just seen, that does get direct sun, but this philodendron here, this really likes bright but indirect light all day long. And you can see how much this has grown. I have a little before and after picture, and I'll show you guys this because I think we went over a video on this one and it wasn't that filled out. So I want to do a little before and after to show you guys how much she grew. And this gets that filtered light through the blinds, so a little bit of the direct sun, but it's not really direct. So filtered sun is through the blinds here. If you have blinds and that sun's coming through the blinds and some of the foliage is hitting it and some isn't, that's filtered sun. If your plant is totally not getting sun, that's indirect but bright light. That's not shade. So this isn't considered shade. This really likes an indirect but bright light, and it gets that filtered sun for a few hours in the morning. And that's just an aloe vera. This is my North Fork Island pine, which is starting to grow really big, and I rotate all my plants. So every plant I grow indoors here, I rotate. You can see I just rotated this today. So this side needs to fill out. This side was facing towards the sun. You can see all the new growth on her. She looks good. We just got to pay attention to the way she's growing, what she needs. Now this I water maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks, my aloe. But these houseplants I water as soon as the soil dries completely to the bottom. So for my North Fork Island pine, my philodendron up here, my Crassula marginalis rugba, this actually gets water like my other succulents. So this doesn't get water as soon as it's dry all the way down to the bottom. This gets watered maybe once a week to once every 3 weeks, depending on what type of climate we have going on. So if it's really rainy, really humid, and you know, there's a lot of humidity coming in the house, and I know I don't have to water too much. They get taken care of like regular succulents do. But my philodendron, my North Fork Island pine there, my begonia, my mini red vein, my basil, and my little shamrocks, my Honeymoon Valley friendship plant, they all get watered when the soil dries out completely to the bottom, and I don't let it stay dry in between the waterings like my succulents. I just water these guys all the way through to the bottom as soon as they're dry. As soon as they're completely dry, I go ahead and water. You want to make sure your plants dry out almost all the way, especially for plants that need to stay consistently moist, like this Honeymoon Valley friendship plant. I love this plant. It's got so much side growth happening in here, so many new branches popping out, and this gets bright filtered light through this blind here, and it doesn't get shade. It gets bright light through the rest of the day, and I water as soon as the soil dries out almost completely down to the bottom. I don't let the soil stay dry for these types of plants like the shamrock on the begonia and the philodendron, because they do not like to stay dry between the waterings. So plants that like to stay consistently moist, I like to plant in like a 25% succulent soil and 75% potting soil. This way I know keeping the soil consistently moist all the time, there's good drainage in here, there's good airflow around the roots, and my plant's not going to end up rotting out in the long run. So I just make sure that soil doesn't stay dry between the waterings. I just go ahead and water as soon as it's dry. For these succulents, these aloes are the same care as my other aloe. They're a little smaller, so they're going to require a little more waterings than that bigger aloe, and I water them maybe once a week. These little rock plants over here, these are a little different. These are like succulents, and this is a little rock plant. This is a lithop, this is a Rocky, and this is a Rocky. His name's Rocky, I named him. And this little guy just requires water once every 6 months or so. As soon as this foliage feels really wrinkly and looks wrinkly, then I know I can water again. But they really don't require water too much. They live up to their name. They're literally rocks and succulents you can just look at and enjoy. And then 6 months down the line, give them just a tiny bit of water. I don't water these all the way through. I just give them a tiny, tiny bit when it's time and a few months apart. And then plump them back up, and that's it. This is a little Christmas cactus, so I water this whenever the leaves feel deflated, just like the rest of my succulents. So this is a regular succulent as well as this cactus right here. And these I just let dry out all the way down to the bottom, and I let them stay dry until these bottom leaves feel deflated. Once they look a little wrinkly and deflated on the bottom, then I go ahead and give them a nice soak all the way through till that water runs down to the bottom, and then I discard any water left in that tray after about 5 minutes or so, and I know they're good to go. These are some more succulents we have. I love these little guys. That's a Haworthia on the right there. That one requires a little bit more water than the rest of my succulents, believe it or not, and I would think that this Haworthia here is like, it looks like an aloe, but it's a Haworthia, and this requires a little more water than the rest of my succulents. This requires a little more water than the rest. I just go ahead, feel the bottom leaves. If they're plump, I leave them alone, let them rock out. You can see they're all doing really well. Succulents will come back from underwatering, but they will not come back from overwatering, so just remember that. They're not like regular houseplants. If you guys need any help on any succulents I am showing you here, just let me know. I'd love to help you in any way possible. You can ask me anything you want, and if it's something I've dealt with before, I will be more than happy to help you. You can see these cute little toes. Look at these cute little bear. They look like toes. I don't know what kind of toes they look like, but they look like little feet, don't they? They're so cute. I don't want to break it, but we got new foliage popping out of the center, so that looks really good. Our little peanut cactus is doing really well. This is considered a true cactus, so this and my thimble cactus, which is right there, I'm pointing to with the pot, that's a little thimble cactus. These require water whenever they feel deflated. So once they start feeling a little deflated at the bottom, which this is really nice and plump, we can go ahead and water again. And you can see all these babies starting to shoot out. They love being in this window. So that's a true cacti just like this. And these require water whenever they feel a little bit deflated. You can go ahead and water again. This is a regular succulent. This is a topsy-turvy, starting to grow really well. Echeveria topsy-turvy. I love the foliage. It's like blue. And then it's got a flower stalk, which I plucked all these little leaves off so we can propagate them. When succulents flower, you can definitely peel these leaves off and propagate them. We're going to cut this stalk off, put it in a glass of water, wait for these 3 blooms to open up. We're going to pollinate it, save the seeds, and then we're going to propagate these little stems. These little leaves on the stems here, they will push out little babies. That's a little Zanzibar aloe here. This is a little basil, which I love the way this smells indoors. That's another little shamrock we propagated. That's a little carnivorous plant here. I know I got a lot of plants in here, so we'll just run through this real quick. A little carnivorous plant. These eat bugs, so they let off this liquid in the middle of them, and then they eat bugs. The bugs get attracted to it. They kind of daze out a little bit from the liquid. It's like a medicine that makes them all funky, and then they can't get out. They're like, it makes the bugs drunk. So we got this cute little pitcher plant here starting to get really veiny. All them red veins are starting to push out, and we're getting a lot of new growth, which is cool. We got another little Crassula marginalis rugbo, which I'm giving to my aunt, propagating that one. We have a little thimble cactus. So this is another little thimble cactus like the other one, but it's a different type. This is a variegata thimble, and the other one is just a regular Gracilis fragilis. This is a Gracilis fragilis variegata, and the other one's just a Gracilis fragilis. So they're cute. I love them. They're brand new, and I just repotted that in that container. These are little babies we propagated. That's a little Gasteria. It's cute. It's kind of like an aloe. That doesn't need much water. And this is my little burrito tail, which is just starting to come back from being really, really sick. This was losing foliage like crazy, as you can see on the bottom, but we just now have it coming back really well. And every time I bumped this, the foliage would come off. And we fixed it. It's no longer doing that because these need a lot of water. So if you're bumping this and the foliage is coming off and the leaves are not exploded looking, it needs water. This I water literally as soon as the soil dries out to the bottom. I don't let this soil stay dry for my burrito tail. I just go ahead and water right away again, and I notice it's staying nice and healthy. You can see nothing's falling apart anymore, and we're getting a lot of nice growth on here. So try to not bump your burrito tails, donkey tails too much. I know they can be a pain in the butt with the foliage falling off, but just try to give it a little more water if your foliage is falling off like that and it feels deflated, because they need a lot of water, more water than you would ever think a succulent does. So just keep a mind on that, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this little garden tour and this little tips and tricks from my garden to yours. If you need any help, let me know. I'm always here for you, and I'd love to help you in any way I can. Thank you so much for stopping by, as always, guys. And I really hope you enjoyed this little window, because we're not going to be seeing it anymore in the new house. Once we move, we're going to not have this window anymore, which is kind of upsetting because I just got it all set up and it looks really good. But we'll have another window to show you guys soon. Thank you so much for stopping by again, you guys. If you need any help on anything I covered here, just let me know. I'm always here for you, and I'd love to help you in any way I can. Thank you so much for coming by. See you next time.